Greetings, fellow scholars of the Livestream. Welcome to the second episode of Pulse of the Livestream's interview special, Assess Materia, where we interview the people who have made the Final Fantasy VII community such a great one. In our first episode, we interviewed Vyzzuvazzadth, where we found out about his origin story, so if you haven't yet, go ahead and check that one out.
Today, we're absolutely delighted to have Vyzz's co-host on the Reunion podcast with us. Please welcome Kyr0sis.
Hi, how are you guys?
Hello, thank you so much for being here. Yay, yay, yay.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a great opportunity to be here with you, and I think what you guys are doing, I think it's incredible, so thank you so much.
Oh, thank you very much. I am a big fan of the Reunion podcast.
Yeah, and you guys, you know what, you guys have been supporting us from the beginning, and it means so much to us, so thank you so much for supporting us.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you very much for joining us here today. So on the subject of the podcast, you started the Reunion podcast back in November 2019, and it was amidst the hype of the upcoming release of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Had you ever actually done anything like that before? Made a podcast?
Actually, no, I did not. The Reunion podcast is the first podcast I've ever done and ever been on. It was a huge learning experience, just kind of to get started and learning, the process, like how am I going to record this? How am I going to get this out there? You know what I mean? Like on Apple Podcasts and all the podcast platforms. So it's a huge... Yeah, and it's a huge process of actually getting it approved and getting it out there for everybody to listen to and be able to access it. So, so I've never done it before. It's a learning experience, but I think that we've improved a lot if you listen to the first episode compared to the latest
Definitely.
one.
So what you're saying is
that we've gotten a lot better.
So what you're saying is that we're going to have to bring you on for another interview down the line so you're not on our second episode so we can have a better one later. Got it. Okay. Take notes, peeps.
That's right, Kuta.
So with all of the hard work and all of the stuff that you had to pour into it, the learning, why? Why go through all of that? What inspired you to want to start the podcast in the first place?
Really, it was my love for Final Fantasy and Final Fantasy VII in particular. And with the news that, Final Fantasy VII Remake was going to be coming out, I was a fan of podcasts at the time, and I was listening to a lot of video game podcasts and Final Fantasy podcasts in particular. They were general Final Fantasy podcasts, so not really Final Fantasy VII focused. And at the time, I was also watching a lot of YouTube content creators like Vyzz and Night Sky Prince and a lot of other YouTube content creators. So I was really inspired, and I just thought that, I looked at the list of Final Fantasy podcasts that existed already and what they were talking about, and there wasn't really one that was just focused on Final Fantasy VII, which is my, all-time favorite Final Fantasy. And I just felt like it would be a good opportunity to just provide people with, I guess, a medium where they can actually engage with Final Fantasy VII at any time they want and not just, have to listen to a multitude of different podcasts and then wait for a Final Fantasy VII Remake centered episode. Do you know what I mean? So it would be more in-depth analysis, general broad discussions, also specific discussions about new characters, story elements, and gameplay mechanics, and just kind of nerd out
and those all
about
sound
Final
like
Fantasy
great reasons to start.
7 Remake. So,
did you ever consider, you mentioned YouTube content creators inspiring you, did you ever consider other mediums?
Yeah, I did at one point. I think in the beginning, I was really thinking about, how could I create this into something, I guess, like a YouTube channel, but also a podcast and just kind of a community. Obviously, this is like a passion project for me and Vyzz. So we both have like careers and jobs outside of this that we're doing. So the amount of time that I have to actually work on this is limited outside of, my regular work hours. And the amount of editing that goes into this for audio only, it's a lot, if it depends on what you want, like I really care about the product. I really care about what we sound like. I want it to sound as professional as possible. So I spend a lot of time editing. And I don't think at this point that I have enough time to actually get into video editing and starting a YouTube channel. I mean, for video content. Like, we do have a YouTube channel. Obviously, our episodes are posted there. You can listen. It's audio only right now. I'm not going to say never because I don't know what the future might have in store. Maybe, we'll change to having video content. I think that was the plan, but just right now it's a lot of time. And yeah, but I think that podcasts are super popular right now, and I think that it provides a good way for people to engage with Final Fantasy and Final Fantasy VII in particular. Because you can listen to it wherever you're going. You know what I mean? Like if you're driving or you're out for a walk. Obviously, you can do that with YouTube as well, YouTube Premium. But at least this is a start, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah.
I think it's worth saying that it's not a case that your podcasts are half an hour and that's it done either. You're talking for 2-3 hours at a time. So there's a lot of content in there and a lot of discussion, a lot of really quality discussion that does make the audience feel as though they're part of it.
Yeah, thank you so much. And that's what we both wanted. That's what we were going for. We really want to incorporate our listeners into the episodes as well. So we ask for listeners to send in their questions if they have any. We have a Discord channel, a Discord server where we engage with our audience. And obviously, we're also, partnered with Cosmo and Observatory, which you guys are a part of. And we engage with, members of the CCO community as well for their input. And we do try to incorporate the listeners and the audience into our episodes and into our discussions as well, and also reaching out to members of the Final Fantasy VII community, and having guests on and that sort of thing, and interviewing different people in the Final Fantasy VII community. And it's been a blast, and I'm so glad that you guys are enjoying it so far, and it's been great, and we're both enjoying it. We have a blast, so.
Can you elaborate a little bit on how you and Vyzz met? What started that partnership?
Yeah, so it was kind of like it came to me as an idea of starting the podcast. So I like I said, I'm not a content creator. I don't have a YouTube following. I'm just, a fan of Final Fantasy VII, and I play a lot of video games, and I had all of the equipment here to be able to record a podcast because I'm also a musician. That we're going to talk a little bit about that in a little bit, but I have all the equipment here to be able to record myself, and I just felt like, I want to give back to this community. I want to talk about this game, and I was so excited and hyped for Remake to come out, and I had consumed pretty much every piece of content that already existed, and I wasn't satisfied. I was like, I wanted more, and I wanted to produce content because I felt like there were other people out there that felt like me, where they had consumed pretty much all the news, but they wanted something more. They wanted in-depth analysis. They wanted roundtable conversations and discussions about different elements of the original, whether they would be in the remake or not, new characters. What about summons? What are we going to get in that aspect? Materia, what are the changes we're going to get? What about theories, And there wasn't that much that was out there other than just, presenting Final Fantasy VII and VII Remake news, which is great. But I just felt like I wanted to do something more. So what I did was I just reached out to Vyzz on his socials. Actually, I think it was on Reddit because his Facebook profile had been inactive or something like that. So he hadn't gotten back to me. So I reached out to him and he didn't respond. So then I was like, okay, this guy's a content creator. Like, why is he going to write me back? You know what I mean? And I was also a fan first because I watched all of his videos. So, and then he got back to me, on Reddit, and I just kind of proposed the idea. I said, I'll do the work. I'm going to research the topics and, do up the document and make sure everything's ready to go. And you just basically have to show up and we'll talk about it and I'll edit and do everything. And he was like, as long as I just have to show up and do this, because he's so busy, right? With his content that he's making, you guys know that. And I understand that. So he shows up at the time and we discuss it, and that's pretty much it. And I guess the rest is history.
That's pretty much what he said to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do this, just keep me out of it.
Just because I have so much on my plate with the podcast and everything, and other projects that I have going on as well in my personal life, like outside of the podcast. So I'm like, I'll show up, I'll record, but I just don't want to edit. Because editing send help, SOS. Yeah.
It's a process for sure. We're so grateful for Rima.
Shout out to Rima.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she's a lifesaver.
She's the best. Yeah.
Down Peeps.
She's my favourite person. No.
She
Never.
is pretty great. Yeah.
So, Kai, Final Fantasy VII is obviously a really big thing for you personally. You've talked about your love for it. You're quite clearly passionate. And I know you've talked on the podcast about how you got into Final Fantasy VII in the first place. But for anybody who hasn't yet had the chance to check out the Reunion podcast, and you totally should because it's awesome, would you mind sharing your origin story with us? How did you first get into Final Fantasy VII?
Absolutely. So, as a kid growing up, I had a lot of video game consoles. So I had mostly Nintendo consoles. Way back when I had an Atari. This was before Nintendo. And I don't actually know why we had that, because we weren't, I guess, considered as like a gaming family. I think it was my dad's, my uncle's, my dad's brother's Atari that he had borrowed or something. And it was just in our house. So I remember playing it from a very young age. And then the NES came out and I had one of those. My brother and I were pretty big gamers, with Nintendo anyway. And Nintendo obviously is more appropriate, I guess, for children. So I guess my parents were they just felt like it was, a good source of entertainment for us, and continued to buy us Nintendo consoles. So growing up, I played a lot of platformers. And then finally when the PS1, the original PlayStation came out, I didn't have one. I had Nintendo consoles, like I said. So I never really, obviously Final Fantasy and Final Fantasy, the previous Final Fantasies came out on Nintendo consoles, but I never played any of those because I was so busy playing platformers. So when I was really young, I didn't really understand what an RPG was. I didn't know what it was. I never had any experience playing RPGs until much later, when I was older. So when my friend had told me that they had a PS1, the original PlayStation, I was super excited because I just remember being at school and we used to talk about video gaming a lot. And obviously with Nintendo was huge with me. I talked a lot about Nintendo. And then this PlayStation came out and I remember my friend was telling me that it could play movies in the middle of these games, it would play movies. And I'm like, what do you mean it plays movies? I never understood, but obviously now we call it a cutscene, right? It never had a name back then. So the best way to explain it was, in the middle of the game, it plays a short movie. And I was like, what do you mean? I had no idea what that meant. So then he's like, well, we should hang out after school. You can come over. So I went over to his house and he was showing it to me, and it just absolutely blew my mind. The things that this PlayStation could do. And then he started playing this game, and it was super awesome. And it was he was showing me this battle system and these characters, Cloud and Tifa, and Cloud had this crazy hair and was super cool looking, and and had this huge sword, and I was so into it. And then we spent, obviously, like, you know, we went back to school and we hung out like more, like off and on. But I never ended up finishing like playing this game with him. And I guess he told me it was Final Fantasy VII, but I kind of forgot because, like I said, I never had a PlayStation. So I was too busy playing, you know, like Super Mario Bros. And Yoshi's Island and, you know, all these other Nintendo games. So I didn't realize until later when I was in high school. Then I realized when I actually played it with a different friend. And then I was like, oh my God, I think I know this game. I played it before. And then I just remember it was the summer and I actually ended up finishing this game with my friend. And it was just an incredible experience beginning to end. And it was just very special to me, a very special moment because, you know, when you're young, you have those times when it's like the summer months feel like an eternity, you know, because time is just feels different than when you're an adult, you know, it just feels so long. So I just remember spending time at my friend's house and, you know, having sleepovers and hanging out and playing this game, you know, for days and days and days and just experiencing it, you know, beginning to end. And then, yeah, I just was such a huge fan of it and it helped me a lot in my life and just getting through things, you know, just in my personal life, you know what I mean? And the characters were so different and the story really pushed the boundaries, I think, for its time. In 1997, you know, there was mature subjects that weren't really explored, I guess, in society, you know, like some of these things where, you know, the cross-dressing scene or just even, you know, like getting slapped, you know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. It's just kind of like shocking, you know, it's kind of shocking. And you think, oh my gosh, like, but it helped me a lot. And I really resonated with the characters and I found a part of myself in each one of these characters. And whenever I felt like, you know, I felt alone or I felt like I needed somebody, like Final Fantasy VII was there. And I know it sounds absolutely ridiculous, but that's what video games were for me. They were an escape and they really helped me through a lot, you know, that I was dealing with in my childhood. So I'm really appreciative for, you know, to have Final Fantasy VII, to have experienced it and to now be part of this podcast and sharing, you know, and part of your episode today, just sharing my background and my history with Final Fantasy VII. It's incredible. And I just hope that, you know, somebody else hears this and they're inspired to go pick it up and play through it. And hopefully they, you know, it resonates in some way with them. And then, you know, they can maybe get through something in their life that they might be dealing with and it helps them in some way.
That's really sweet. And I think there are probably a lot of people who can certainly understand a lot of what you said, if not apply it to their own lives as well.
So do you think that you had, like, this isn't a question that we had proposed, but I'm just curious. Did you have, like, similar feelings? Like, how was your nostalgia level when you first played Remake?
Yeah, it was very emotional. I've said this on the podcast as well, when I got the game and I actually opened it and then I, you know, put it in my PS4 and booted it up and just sat on my couch and just took it all in, you know, that opening scene, the music, everything. Like, it was so surreal to me and I felt like I couldn't believe that this was happening, you know? And that's why I was so excited when it was announced that they were actually making it. I was so emotional and the same thing happened, you know, I just sat on my couch and I just cried because I just felt like I couldn't believe that I was just so happy that I'm alive and I'm like getting to actually experience this in this moment in time. And it was at the beginning of the pandemic as well. And there were a lot of feelings of anxiety and stress and, you know, just thinking about the unknown, like what's in store for me. Is the world ever going to be the same again? And a lot of those questions and things, you know, can be found and themes can be found in this game, which is crazy. But I was so excited, but I was really overcome with emotion. And I just feel so lucky to have experienced it. And I did love it. I think it's a great game. And it's not exactly, the original, just, beat for beat. There are changes there that kept me interested and surprised me along the way. And that's pretty much what I wanted. I was just open to receiving it for what it was. I never really had any preconceived, notions about what we're getting or what I wanted. I was just super open, and I just was like, I just want to be taken on this journey with these characters in this world, and any excuse to go back to this world and, revisit these characters and spend time with them again is good for me. Like I'm open to it, and it just felt like you said, with the nostalgia, it just really brought me back to being a kid. And that's how I felt, like just being a kid again on my couch with my friend, experiencing this game, playing games together, because games are different now. A lot of games are online. We don't really have the couch co-op anymore, or you don't really have games where, your friend comes over and you experience it together. I mean, a lot of children still do this, but as an adult now, I have commitments. I have other things going on. I have, I don't have enough time to be able to go over to my friend's house, or maybe my friend doesn't play video games, So, but it just kind of brought me back to that time and brought me comfort, but it was also super emotional. But it was an incredible experience. And when am I ever going to, I forget who had said this, but somebody I think had brought it up to us before on the podcast, how are we ever going to experience this again? We're not going to experience playing Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1, the feeling that we felt at that time. We'll never experience it again, because this is a remake. So it's not only did we get to experience Final Fantasy VII OG, but now we've also got to experience Remake in the same lifetime, which is insane to me. And I'm just so happy that I got to experience it.
I think there was a lot of outpouring of emotion when it was released, but I think the difficulty with the release was it was so thrown out of whack with the pandemic. I mean, I know some people who got theirs really, really early. Yeah. And I remember watching a video of an unboxing and thinking, oh, I'm so jealous. He's got his. I want mine. And then mine just turning up out of the blue one Friday afternoon. And I was just bouncing off the walls. I was so excited to actually have it. And my hands were shaking as I opened up the box and carefully removed everything and put the discs in. And then when it loaded, what got me was the initial screen. The Buster Sword, the press any button to continue. And I sat there and I cried. And I thought, oh my God, what am I doing? But it was a culmination of emotions, years worth of emotions, the love of the original game that, oh man, I really hope they make a remake of this at some point. To actually, oh my God, they've announced a remake, the setting my alarm for 2 o'clock in the morning so I could get up, and I literally did that. I was just back from an overnight flight from Japan. Yes. And I think I'd got home about 8 o'clock at night, went to bed, set my alarm for 2 o'clock in the morning, and got up to watch the trailer. My husband's going, you're crazy. Why would you do that? Why would it not? It's Final Fantasy VII. You know how long I've been waiting for this. Yes. And this was just a year before it came out. So yeah, I think that outpouring of emotion was a culmination of a lot of other emotions. Exactly. And it was as much relief that it was actually there. It was real. It was tangible. It was on my screen. There's no take-backs now. As much as it was excitement to actually play the game.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And there was at one point when I felt like through the development process, I guess, where we were not getting very much news and things had slowed down, that I was feeling like, are we ever going to get this? I was scared that we weren't actually going to, they weren't going to be able to finish it, or maybe it was canceled, or we weren't going to get anything. But like you said, just sitting there and holding it in my hands and then seeing it on my screen, it's like, no, now it's like they can't take it back, it's done, it's in my hands, it's complete. And I was just super excited to be able to experience it
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, so Kai, we've talked a little bit about like your like feelings about the Final Fantasy OG and about Final Fantasy Remake, and kind of we started touching on it and then got a little derailed or whatever. But what do you think of, like, what is your favorite theory for the future of Final Fantasy VII Remake? I know you and Vyzz spend a lot of time speculating on the podcast, so like you can feel free to take from one that you've mentioned on there, or even just like a personal favorite. Like, what is your favorite theory?
Wow, there's so many. I feel like one that Vyzz had come up with. I think Vyzz came up with this. I'm pretty sure he said that everything that's happening is kind of a memory in the live stream, I guess, and it's being tampered with. Sephiroth is going back and trying to change events that have happened, or destroy Destiny, I guess, so that he can do whatever he wants. And we don't exactly know for sure like what his ultimate plans are. I do like to prescribe to the theory that like the multiple timeline theories, but I just don't feel like it's multiple timelines. I just feel like what we're seeing is either a memory of the live stream or the original timeline that's happening, but there's kind of tampering with it. I don't know if I believe that there's multiple timelines, but yeah. And we've talked a little bit about that also in our episodes of the podcast, but there's different things that you can take from scenes in the game, especially like Sephiroth showing up so early in the story, which in the original did not happen. And then people were asking questions. Actually, people did not like that about this game. They were apprehensive about it because they said that change is too big of a change for this game. And I think there's a reason behind that. And it makes sense that he's in the live stream, probably, he's made a version of himself that can go through and try to change things, change Destiny in some way, to stop some event from happening, whether that's the ending of the original, you know what I mean? When everything is destroyed, obviously, but I'm not sure. But I do feel like there are indicators there, especially too with Aerith, and I feel like she's more receptive to, like, she's receiving information from the live stream, or maybe a version of herself in the live stream, is communicating with her or sharing some extra information with her so she knows exactly what's going on. By the end of the game, I think she knows exactly what's going on, but I think as throughout the game, we are experiencing it with her, and I think that she's gathering more of this information as she goes through, so she's discovering more about, okay, so what's actually happening, but she hasn't disclosed that information to us, the player. We don't know exactly. We're just kind of left up to figure it out on our own, and I really like that about this game. It asks more questions than it answers, I guess, and that motivates me to go online and look up what other people are talking about it and kind of theory craft, with people like Vyzz and Baby Seal and Sleep Easy, and I can go on and on, like, it's just incredible. And that's why I love this game so much, because it was like that as well in the original. I just loved experiencing it and talking about it. And also the whole Zack thing in the original game was so unclear to me. Like, when I had played this game the first time, I didn't even get what they were trying to explain. I didn't understand. And then somebody explained it to me, and then that blew my mind. I was like, what? Because I just felt like, since it wasn't voiced, everything's in text, there's a lot that you could miss in the original game.
Well, and the Zack cutscene is like totally optional in the original game too.
Yes.
So yeah, totally missable.
And not understanding, that this, like, what is happening to Cloud along the story. You know what I mean? Like, you just experience this and you're like, okay, so is this a flashback? Is this, but it's more unclear because of the limitations of what they could do, I feel like, with the game. So that led to me, talking to my friends about it as a kid, and obviously with the dawn of the internet and having more access to more information and then researching it, it just blew my mind. And I'm doing that now with the remake, and it makes me feel like a kid again, I feel. So
a couple of months ago, Kai, you recorded a cover of Hollow for the CCO awards show, which was absolutely fantastic, and we are so grateful you did that. It went down so well. Everybody loved it. And if anybody hasn't had a chance to check it out, it is on the CCO channel with a video by Rima. And it's also, I think it's audio only on the podcast channel. Is that right, Kai?
You are correct.
Yeah. So definitely recommend checking that out. You're obviously an incredibly talented musician. And you do have your own band, don't you?
I do. Thank you so much for saying that. I have my own band. We haven't really been doing that much together because of COVID. Obviously, there's restrictions. So we unfortunately haven't had time to record or to kind of practice together. But we did separately record a demo for our second album. So our first album is on Spotify and iTunes and everything. You can listen to it. My band is called Lions Leading Sheep. So Lions Leading Sheep, and we did a music video that's also on our YouTube channel for our second single from our album. It's called Echoes and Anchors, and the song is called Shapeshifter. And people, have been super receptive to our music, and I guess I would describe it as kind of indie rock, kind of like indie anthemic rock. We've got strings. We've got the grungy guitars. We've got a little bit of kind of a drum machine, electronic drums mixed with acoustic drums and bass. And yeah, it's an incredible experience to be part of this band. And it's just so unfortunate that we haven't been able to record. We did book some studio time to record our second album, but obviously that got canceled and then rescheduled and then canceled again because I'm in Canada, I'm in Ontario, and we are in another lockdown right now. So non-essential services are closed. So it's just been kind of back and forth. So what we're doing now is we're just kind of going to record everything separately and see what kind of quality we can get outside of a recording studio, and we'll contemplate releasing that. But yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Well, you did an amazing job with Hollow. That sounded fantastic. 'Cause I remember you sent me the raw version of it. You're like, oh, that's just a rough version. And I thought, if that's the rough, wow, what is the finished one going to sound like? And it just blew me away. I did not like the song, I have to say. Didn't like it at all in the game. Heard your version. My God, it's up there in my top 10 now.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it was a great, I really wanted to do this, for Vyzz and for CCO and the awards show. I just wanted to do something special. And that's why I had asked you, how much time do I have? Because it all determines on the finished, what the finished product sounds like. So I didn't have a lot of time to do, that many takes of what I was recording. So I did a few takes here and there, and then I chose the best ones with, what I did for the amount of time that I had. And that's why I was saying that, if I had, if I could go into a recording studio and actually record this, it would sound like a million times better. I think it sounds good, and I'm glad that, you guys enjoyed it. And it seems like everybody's been really receptive to it. And I just really wanted to do something special for you guys and for Vyzz for his birthday. So
you certainly achieved that. Yeah. Do you just do the singing with your band, or do you do the songwriting as well?
Yeah, so I am the vocalist of the band. I cannot play guitar. Well, I played a little bit as a kid, so I play a little bit, but I don't play anymore, you know what I mean? So I took lessons as a kid, and then I was so busy doing other things.
Playing Final Fantasy VII.
Hanging out with my friends, yeah, exactly. so I had to give it up because it was like one of the last instruments that I had learned, because I was in voice lessons and piano lessons and trumpet lessons and saxophone lessons, and I can play all of these different types of instruments, but guitar was like the last one that I added on, and I was in, I think it was grade 12, and I was so busy with school, and I just gave it up. But in the band I sing, I do play piano and keys, like synthesizer and stuff like that, and I help write those parts, and also I have helped to write some of the lyrics, but most of the lyrics were written by our lead guitarist, Chris. At the time that I joined the project, he had already had like samples of these songs, like rough versions already recorded. So I didn't get that much creative, I guess, freedom to kind of write the lyrics for those songs, but I did help write a few songs on that album. So, but yeah.
Well, if you ever feel inclined, we could do the theme tune.
Oh, that would be cool. I'm down.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's recorded now, so you have to do it.
Okay, so you got to write some of the songs, and you're like working on doing music, like kind of like during pandemic, which is really rough. And then Remake comes out, and you are playing that, and you're enjoying Hollow, or at least enough to do a cover. Do you think you're going to do any more covers ever? Final Fantasy covers?
When I had recorded the cover, I thought about doing Dragon Song actually instead of Hollow, but then I thought, well, I should do a song from Final Fantasy VII, especially since that's what our podcast is about, and CCO, and it was for Vyzz and for his birthday. So I thought, well, I should just do Hollow. But kind of like what you had said, Peeps, about the original, I kind of felt the same way. Like, it was okay. It didn't really resonate with me that much, but I felt like I should do this because it's Final Fantasy VII related, and it was for Vyzz and for CCO, so that's the reason why I went with it. And I felt like also we have similar vocal ranges, so I felt like it would fit well if I had sang Hollow, so that's the reason why I did that. But I did think about doing Dragon Song, and I did see it actually performed live, because I went to the Distant Worlds orchestra performance, and Susan Calloway was there, and she had performed it, and I was just so inspired by her performance that I'm like, you know what, I'd actually really like to do a cover of this song. So but we're speaking about Final Fantasy XIV. I played it a little bit when it originally came out, and I hadn't went back to it, you know what I mean? So yeah, but
Well, it's very different.
And then I also really love Eyes on Me from Final Fantasy VIII as well. Fei Wong, right?
Yes.
So I'm like, I was thinking I would like to do that one. And actually, I don't know if a lot of people know this about me, but I do like Final Fantasy 13. I do like the music from that game. And there was two songs, actually, The Promise and My Hands. My Hands is Leona Lewis. And I really...
Yes.
Yeah, I like
Leona
her
Lewis.
performance of that song, and I feel like I'd be able to do a good job with that. So I thought about doing that. But 13, honestly, the music's really great. The gameplay is really, really good. And the story is a little convoluted, but I was going through something in my life at the time. I had graduated university, and I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, and I didn't have a job. And I was just kind of like in my apartment, like, for 4 months, because you're done university here in April. So I couldn't find a job. And I was like, what am I going to do? Well, this game just came out. I love Final Fantasy. I'll try it. I had a PS3. And kind of like 7, it was just there for me at the time when I needed it. And you know what I mean? And I really did come to connect with those characters. So 13 has a special place, in my heart. And I love the music in that game. So... maybe a song from 13, but I guess you guys will just have to stay tuned and see what I come up with.
Oh, that's a promise, isn't it? Yeah.
So would you, or have you, I mean, definitely Final Fantasy has made a big impact on your life and been there in times when you needed it. So have you ever like used that emotion or like been inspired by it enough to write a song like inspired by Final Fantasy, such as like a scene or a character or actual music in the game or something? Like, has that ever triggered one of your own original songs?
So I haven't actually written a song based around Final Fantasy or a Final Fantasy character per se, but I do feel like I would love to do that. I feel like, obviously, you know, writing a song about Tifa from Final Fantasy VII, I think she's such a, you know, she's been through so much in her life, and she's so tough, but yet she's such a compassionate and empathetic person. She's such a strong character. And I would just, if I could write a song, or if I wanted to write a song about a Final Fantasy character, it would be Tifa, absolutely. But I haven't done that yet, but thank you for the idea.
Well, you know, if you need help with the lyrics, Rizzle is a very good lyricist in poem form, but you know, there's a partnership ready and waiting for you.
There you go. Exactly.
We'll get Alex Mukala on board as well.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. It would just be like a collaboration album. That would be so cool.
Yeah.
Final
Fantasy. We have to make it happen.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Let's do it. I'm so down. Let's do it. That would be incredible. Maybe we can get the Chocobo Band on board. Yeah.
We'll go on tour. We'll do live broadcasts.
Yeah, virtual tour.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's good to dream.
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot to say that I did write down the Dream Oath opera from Final Fantasy VI.
That would, oh my God.
I do have actually like an opera classical background in my vocal training. So if somebody wants to give that a go, let's do a duet. Let's go right now. I would be so down. So yeah.
There you go. Please. That.
Yes.
yes. 100% yes.
CCO and Pulse of the Livestream presents Kyr0sis. What would you call your album of Final Fantasy covers?
Oh my gosh.
You'd have to give it a really cool name. You can't use Pulse of the Livestream, that's already taken.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I guess the thing was, like, you probably wouldn't want to use Livestream because it'd be from multiple entries.
Yeah. So. That's a hard one. I'm not sure. That's hard.
Well, that'll give you something to ponder before your next interview with us.
Yeah, I was going to say Melodies of the Livestream, but can't put Livestream in there, so...
What can we expect from you in the future? That sounds like a job interview, doesn't it? Where do you see yourself in 2 years? Yeah. What can we expect from you in the future? What do you see for yourself? And, if I can ask, you've already had a collaboration with Rima because she did the video for Hollow. Again, absolutely amazing. Can we expect any more Kai and Rima collaborations?
Yeah, so I can't, like, I'm not ready to announce it right now, but I can tease that we are working on something right now together. So after she had, I guess, edited the video and put the audio with the music video for Hollow, I had reached out to her for some help as well because I'm working on another music project with one of my bandmates from Lions Eating Sheep. We're doing a side project, and we have a video, and she's currently editing it. So, but that's pretty much all I can say. I can't say anything else about the project yet. But yeah,
tell us more. Tell us more. You've whetted our appetites.
Right? But you guys can stay tuned for that, I guess, when we're ready to release it. But it is not Final Fantasy based, so it's actually a different video game. So stay tuned for that. It's music from a different video game with a video that Rima's editing. But yeah, that's all I can say right now. But I'll give you guys more information as soon as I'm allowed.
Oh, well, I hope we'll get an exclusive on this.
Absolutely. Yeah. It'll be like a premiere. We could do like a premiere or something.
Oh God, yeah. Well, I think we're just about done.
Yeah. So typically what we try to do is we try to end our, I mean, I say this as if we've had multiple interviews because you're number 2, but with Vyzz, what we did is we ended our interview with a little bit of like, we've had some serious conversations, we've talked about some important things, and now we're going to just kind of let loose and talk about something a little crazy. So with Vyzz, we had a lightning round. And so we asked him just, Vyzz is all about deep analysis, so we wanted to throw him off. So quick responses, quick reactions, not thinking heavy about, deep analysis, just first gut instinct. We don't necessarily have that in store for you. We have something even better.
This is a question that's going to require some deep thought. So don't feel you have to give an instant answer. Take your time to consider it. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In Final Fantasy VII Remake, after the group have left Midgar and are travelling in the open world, they stop off at, let's say, Calm, and spend the night there. Obviously, they're going to be hungry. They've been very, very active. So they want something to eat. They stop off at a restaurant for dinner. Do you think they'd make Red 13 eat on the floor, or would they get him a chair?
That's a hard one.
Thank you.
That's a really hard one. Wow.
Walk us through your thought process.
Show us your working out. So let's paint the picture a little better. So you're in a nice family-run restaurant.
Yes.
There's a big table. You've already got Cloud sitting there with his massive oversized sword. Barrett, who is a big lad. I mean, he's going to take up a lot of room.
He probably takes up an entire booth.
You've got Aerith, you've got Tifa, and then you've got Red 13. Now, the owner of the restaurant is going to think, you can't bring your dog in here. How do you think they'd respond to that?
That's true. I feel like they would probably threaten the owner to let him in.
That's a surefire way of getting some pubes in your soup.
That's true. I feel like Barrett would threaten him really loudly. Maybe, throw something. Intimidation tactics. And then, maybe... I feel like they wouldn't know what to do either, so I feel like they would set a place for him at the table and then, serve the food, but then they would be awkwardly, they wouldn't know what to do. They wouldn't know if he wanted to eat at the table or on the floor, so then they would probably, not even bring it up because they don't also want to, embarrass him. So I'm not sure. I feel like he wouldn't even eat. He would be like, I don't eat that.
I'm sorry, I don't eat penne arrabbiata.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like, I feel like they would set a place for him at the table as if he's going to eat at the table, but then they'd be like, does he even eat at the table? Like, I mean...
He can't hold a knife and fork. He's got no opposable thumbs.
Exactly. So then they would probably put a bowl on the floor or like a plate on the floor for him. And then I feel like he would just look at them and be like, what is this? And then he would say, yeah, I don't eat penne. Yeah, like you said, he doesn't eat penne arrabbiata or whatever you said.
Yeah, do you
and
think
that's what I...
Do you think he's too young to drink?
I don't think so. He seems old enough to drink. And animals age differently than humans. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, if I'm 30, my dog is like 78. Right? So, I feel like he's pretty old.
Yeah, well, you know, he's said by Bugenhagen that he's a teenager. Maybe they'd have to get him one of those little colouring in sheets and a pack of crayons.
How would he use the crayons?
Oh yeah, that's
teeth,
true. That's true.
Oh.
You know, he's not got opposable thumbs. He's not stupid.
Yeah, but he also wouldn't.
But would you really
like
wanna...
I was thinking he could use a fork with his mouth, but then how would he eat what's on the fork? Right? Like he wouldn't be able to eat it because it's on the end of the fork, but he's using the fork with his mouth. So, yeah, interesting.
If only he had a prehensile tail.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's true too. That's true. That's a good question, guys. That's a stumper.
Thank you. I blame Rizzle entirely for that one. Even though it was me that came up with it, I'm still blaming Rizzle. But no, do you know something? In all seriousness, well, not seriousness because it's a ridiculous question, but I have genuinely thought about that more than once. Because I have this thought about it that realistically, given the shape of his body, he wouldn't be able to sit at a table. You know, he would maybe sit up on his haunches, but well, no, it could work, but it'd be really awkward for him. Whereas if he was fed on the floor, I think particularly Aerith would have a great deal of difficulty with that. She would have an issue with that because why should he eat on the floor? Because she would see him as an equal. You know, he is a part of the group as much as anyone else is. Yeah. I did put it to Vyzz, and Vyzz said, they would just give him a plate of whatever they're having.
I feel like he would sit on a chair at the table. You know, like if I put my dog on a chair, like on one of my dining chairs, he would just sit up. Like he wouldn't put his hands he doesn't have hands. He wouldn't put his paws on the table. He would just have his paws down, like as if he's sitting up. And then if I put some food there, he would probably eat it like with his, like extending his neck, right? Like putting his head down and eating it from the plate on the table.
Are you sure he wouldn't put his paws on the table?
Yeah, I'm sure. Point? Well, my dog wouldn't. Other dogs probably would. I don't know what Red would do.
Listen to you. I've trained my dog perfectly. You don't have cats, clearly, because they would walk on your plate. They'd be like,
they would walk on
mine.
your food.
That's mine. That's mine. Yeah. I've shed my hair all over it, therefore it's mine.
Exactly. They're just slowly plotting to kill you.
Oh God, there's nothing slow about it.
Yeah. That's how I see it happening, probably. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if he would eat it, though. Because does he eat the same things?
It would depend what it was.
I don't know what he eats.
Well, that's what I said. Depending on his physiology, you know, can he eat the same thing? And Rizzle, I have to give Rizzle credit for this. Rizzle came up with an idea for an enemy in part 2, which has an attack based on chocolate that only affects Red 13, you know, assuming he does have some dogginess about him. It would completely incapacitate him. And I think, I'm worried about how Red 13's going to have his dinner. Rizzle's just thinking of ways to kill him. So, take from that what you will.
Oh my gosh.
Can't feed him chocolate. Don't do it.
Well done. I think that was an admirable attempt at answering a ridiculous question.
It took a lot of thought,
and I'm sorry for asking it.
Just a lot of thought, a lot of time, a lot of effort. Yeah.
So this has been a really, really enjoyable conversation, and we didn't plan an outro. So, Kai, you're the professional. You want to sign us off?
Sure. All right, everyone. So that concludes today's episode of Pulse of the Livestream Assess Materia interview series. I just want to go ahead and thank myself for being a guest here today on this episode. And also thank you so much to Kuta, Peeps, Rizzle, and Rima for creating such an incredible series. It was so fantastic to be a part of it today. And also to be here to share my history with Final Fantasy VII and VII Remake. And I just can't wait to see what you guys have in store for the series. So if you want to check out myself and Vyzz on the Reunion podcast, we are available on all streaming podcast platforms. We're also available on YouTube, Discord, and Twitter at reunion_podcast. And don't forget to head on over to CCO on Twitter. It's CC_Observatory. Also, check out the Cosmo Observatory Discord server, YouTube channel. And if you want to check out my music, my band Lions Leading Sheep is on Spotify, iTunes, and wherever you listen to your music. So thank you so much, guys, again, for tuning in. And I hope you guys have an awesome day. Thank you so much.
Thanks again, Kai, for being here and for that amazing outro. If you haven't already, everybody, go ahead and ring the bell and subscribe below. Not only will this keep you informed when we post new developments and have new interviews with awesome guests like Kai, but you'll also be alerted when Vyzz posts his top tier quality in-depth analysis videos, because you don't want to miss those.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back with more updates as they happen. So stay tuned.
Stay safe and take care. Pulse of the Livestream Assess Materia, signing off.